Good morning.
Good morning.
I think I didn't hit that bowl hard enough. My name is Marlise Singh, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees here at Mainline Unitarian Church. I am joined today by our worship team that is led by Reverend David Messner, our interim senior minister, Caroline Bright, our ministerial intern, Michael Cohen, our worship associate, Dr. Vincent Craig, our music director, and the fabulous MLUC choir. I welcome you to our service this morning, all of you here and online, and especially those of you who are visitors here. If you are visiting, please join us for coffee hour after the service, or go to the welcome table in the atrium, or go to our website, mluc.org, to find out more about us and our Unitarian Universalist beliefs. We stand up for religious freedom and for the worth and dignity of every individual. We have joined here in a community of faith to transform our lives, to support each other, and to build a world that has justice and peace for all. I have two announcements this morning. First, Family Promise, formerly IHN, has its first hosting of 2023. It will commence next Sunday. MLUC will open our home to unhoused families for that following week, and there are several volunteer opportunities still available. During our hosting week, 2 to 3 families with children arrive each evening at dinner time. MLUC volunteers make and serve dinners, spend time in the early evening with our visitors, or stay overnight at the church. There are typically 2 volunteers for each shift, and you may sign up for more than one shift. I mean, sign up as many times as you want to. With the issue of family homelessness remaining at crisis levels, Family Promise, along with affiliates, have committed to a strategic plan to change the future for 1 million children. We will be in the atrium after the service to answer any questions or to sign up any additional volunteers. I also want to alert you to the grand opening party for the new exhibit of works by our art group, which happens next Saturday beginning at 5 in the fireside room. Special guest artist Mary Kane will have paintings in the show, and Meadowlark will play. We will have wine and hors d'oeuvre. Come meet the artists and then stay on for MLUC's Pew Players at 7 p.m. in the McInnes room. Don't miss this fun evening. And please look at all the other activities in your order of service. And now we have the Minister's Minute.
My Minister's Minute is dedicated to introducing you to Ron Rose, who's coming my direction right now. Is that true? Is that happening? Come. Sir, please. Today we're just taking a moment. One of our activities on both the board, the transition team, is activating our Legacy Society, and particularly remembering our patterns of showing appreciation from those who have gone before, whose gifts have built this house. There have been a couple of substantial bequests received by this church just in the time I've been here that have transformed, I think, your long-term future. Ron is a member of the team that works on recognition and developing those sorts of gifts that create our future. So I'll turn it over to Ron.
Okay, thanks, Dave. I'm Ron Rose, and I'm just getting over a cold, so you'll have to forgive my voice. I'm here to talk about the endowment and specifically the Legacy Circle. Like so many other endowments, ours secure the financial future of the church, provides the opportunity to hire an interim when we need, or an intern, to close the budget gap on occasion within limits, and to fund the missions of our church, both inside and outside these walls. Some time ago, the Endowment Committee initiated the Legacy Circle to acknowledge and honor those deceased members who have remembered MLUC in their wills. Today, the Legacy Circle also includes those who have signed a form. Should be one up there. Aha, it works. A form indicating their intent to remember MLUC in their estate planning. No amounts, no percentages, it's not a contract, it's just an indication that a Legacy Circle member will remember MLUC in their will. If you haven't noticed, there's a poster on the wall outside the offices, and I have it on display in the atrium this morning, that lists all the names of the Legacy Circle's members, both living and deceased, and it will be updated soon to include the names of those who have signed up during COVID. Joanne's not here today. I gave her my cold, which she's very thankful for. Joanne and I signed the form some time ago, which indicates our intent to leave part of our estate to MLUC. Why? Because this place means the world to us. There's lifelong friends of ours sitting out there today, and Unitarian Universalism and the 7 principles describe exactly how we would like to live our lives. Here we can constantly explore, exchange ideas about faith, learn, grow, and work together in pursuit of justice and to help others. We truly believe that the world would be a better place if there were more people practicing the principles of Unitarian Universalism. That may sound like I'm an evangelist. I'm not. But I can tell you that if you join the Legacy Circle, Dave said he can guarantee that you will go to heaven when your time comes. You know, estate sounds like a word for the rich and the old, but it's neither. Estate is the value of your assets, no matter how much or how little. And estate planning is for everyone, young and old. If you are young and still raising children, you obviously have no idea what your financial situation will be 50 years from now. But by signing the form and becoming a Legacy Circle member, you are simply implying your intent to remember MLUC in your will as an expression of what this place means to you. We all want MLUC to grow and thrive. At our last endowment meeting, I asked the question, knowing this congregation, what would motivate more of them to join the Legacy Circle? Is it their desire to support the church in the future after they're gone? Is it the comfort of knowing they will leave their mark to affirm their values? Or is it the wish to expand our faith outside these walls? No, we realized that it's none of these. Historically, your greatest motivator has always been a free lunch. And that is exactly what we're going to do. If you are a current Legacy Circle member, or if you join the Legacy Circle by the middle of February, which gives us time to update our roster, you are invited to a luncheon on March 4th at noon, Saturday, March 4th at noon. We wish to acknowledge you, thank you, and honor you for your commitment to MLUC. We will also go at that point into more detail about how the endowment is funded, how it's invested, and the multiple purposes of the funds. Please put that on your calendar and see me after the service out in the atrium to talk about signing up to become a Legacy Circle member. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ron. And now please silence your cell phones and join me in reciting our mission. Together, we transform lives through love, service, and our helping faith.
Our chalice lighting words this morning come to us from the Reverend Scott Taylor. Pulled in many directions by the demands of our days, we light this chalice to remind us of the still point deep inside. Made unsteady by the winds of unpredictable paths, we light this chalice to remember the shelter of each other. Longing for lights that lead us back to our truest selves, we kindle this chalice to illuminate the faces of friends and sacred companions, recalling once again that we find our way through the willingness to take each other's hand.
The reason I can't follow the old eye for an eye philosophy is that it ends up leaving everyone blind, said Martin Luther King, 1963. We are moving up a mighty highway, he continued, toward the city of freedom. There will be meandering points, there will be curves and difficult moments. We will be tempted to retaliate with the same kind of force that the opposition will use. But I'm going to say to you, wait a minute, Birmingham, somebody's got to have some sense. And so on this Martin Luther King weekend, let us call ourselves, gather ourselves up in the spirit of, wait a minute, there's got to be a different response than the obvious reaction that we are led to by first instinct, by anxiety, by anger, by fear, by despair. We are, I hope, the church of wait a minute. We have other resources. We have other possibilities. We know there are bumps in the road, and we know we have the strength to traverse them together. So, my friends, welcome to this celebration of life. This is an act of waiting a minute. Before we go on with our lives in an hour, let us wait a minute. Someone has got to have some sense in this world. We might be the someones. We might just be the someones. And so, my friends, welcome to the celebration of life. Let us now worship together. Rise in body or in spirit, with voice for sure, in the singing of our opening hymn. This is number 122 in your gray hymnal, Sound Over All Waters.
the me I choose to be. For the words are just as important as the art, and the art is just as important as the words. Some may think that they know who I am, but here's what you must understand. My creativity and curiosity flow without end, and if I meet an obstacle, I just begin again. I am a planet, a limitless galaxy, and I am the me I choose to be. I am hope passed down through generations. I am a bridge builder, connecting people and nations. I am a weaver of words that quickly take flight and stretch into stories, fluttering off into the night. I am a conjurer, imagining realms that aren't there yet. I am a maker, a creator, shaping a new world we all can share. My creativity and curiosity flow without end, and if I meet an obstacle, I just begin again. I am a planet, a limitless galaxy, and I am the me I choose to be. I am joyful as a bubbly, rushing river. I am sad as a trickling tear. I am a tiny bird watching the world from afar. I am a friend who loves to be near, and there's something else about me, maybe harder to see. I am not that cool. I don't always know what to say, and every so often I go the wrong way. Sometimes it seems I have 2 left feet, but that just means I am a free spirit. I move to the rhythm of my own heartbeat. I am a star dancing across the night sky. I am the night sky, unnoticed as stars fly by. It's hard not to care when people pretend you aren't there, but then I remember my creativity and curiosity flow without end, and if I meet an obstacle, I just begin again. I am a planet, a limitless galaxy, and I am the me I choose to be. I am a superhero, yet unnamed. I am laughter that falls like rain, making room for joy to grow. I am a gardener, planting dreams the world will know. I am wind with the strength to bend trees. I am light, traveling the universe with ease. I am the winding road to a fantastic adventure. I am a home where love lives at the center. I am all these things and more you see because I am the me I choose to be. And now I invite all of our young people to join me in heading back to our classrooms. Special shout out to the youth group. I'm going to hang out with you today. It's going to be great.
Each month, MLUC selects an offering outreach partner, which is a local charitable organization to share half of the collection that we collect each week and help them with their mission. And in the month of January, the offering outreach partner is the Patrician Society. They are located in the basement of St. Patrick Church in Norristown. The Patrician Society addresses basic needs of economically disadvantaged adults, children, and families in the community. As you may know, in economically challenged communities, there typically is a lack of places to be able to buy food at reasonable prices. And in downtown Norristown, where St. Patrick's Church is located, there is not a supermarket. The Patrician Society reflects values. You heard Ron talk about the 7 principles that have inspired him and Joanne, and the Patrician Society reflects the UU principle of inherent worth and dignity of every person. Every client receives courteous treatment. Pantry clients are entitled to weekly basic allotments of canned goods, and no one is ever turned away. And while the Patrician Society is basically a food pantry, it also provides, when it can, emergency assistance with medical, housing, utilities, and other needs. The need for assistance has doubled over the last year. To make an electronic donation, if you're watching remotely, you can follow the instructions that you see on the screen behind me. If you're here in the sanctuary and you prefer to make a cashless donation, there's a QR code in the order of service, and you can point your mobile device at that and it will take you to a donation screen. The offering will now be greatly received. Candles of Community is the ritual that we have at MLUC for personal sharing and support. After each candle is lit, please join me in saying, "We hold you in our hearts." Betsy McElwain would like to thank all who lovingly donated to the Norristown Hospitality Center Socks and More Drive. I'll give you a list of some of the things that were donated, and I think you'll find it impressive. We collected 26 gloves, 398 pairs of socks, 200 various toiletries, 119 hats, 33 pairs of gloves, and 75 coats. The handcrafted articles are especially meaningful. Special thanks go to Priscilla Osgood, Kit Burns, Craig and Linda Farr, Beth Rittenhouse, Nini Ingersoll, and Ron D'Annunzio. To all those named and the many others who were not named but were generous, we hold you in our hearts. Peggy Moses, the cousin of Marilee Marshall, died on Friday, January 13th, of a fast-acting cancer. For Marilee and for Peggy's two daughters and their families, we hold them in our hearts. Yusara Antar would like to light a candle of gratitude for all of those who helped make yesterday's mid-year board retreat a resounding success. For the members of the MLUC board who invest significant time on behalf of our church, we thank you and we hold you in our hearts. And for all of those joys and concerns that are being held, some too deep for words, we light one more candle. As you all know, tomorrow is the celebration in the United States of Martin Luther King's birth and all the things that he did for mankind. And today I'd like to read an excerpt from one of his famous sermons that he delivered in 1957 called "Loving Your Enemies." Now first let us deal with this question, which is the practical question. How do you go about loving your enemies? I think the first thing is, in order to love your enemies, you must begin by analyzing self. We must face the fact that an individual might dislike us because of something that we've done deep down in the past. That is why I say begin with yourself. Like is a sentimental something, an affectionate something. There are a lot of people that I find it difficult to like. But love is greater than like. Love is understanding. When the opportunity presents itself for you to defeat your enemy, that is a time that you must not do it. When you must rise to the level of love, of its great beauty and power. You seek only to defeat evil systems, individuals who happen to be caught up in that system, you love. Within the best of us, there is some evil, and within the worst of us, there is some good. Discover the element of good in your enemy, and as you seek to hate him, find the center of goodness and place your attention there, and you will take a new attitude. Now I invite you to take a minute to center down and reflect on those words. Thank you.
Elijah Rock, coming up, Lord. Elijah Rock, shout, shout. Elijah Rock, coming up, Lord. Elijah Rock, shout, shout. Elijah Rock, coming up, Lord. Elijah Rock, shout, shout. Elijah Rock, coming up, Lord. Elijah Rock, shout, shout. Elijah Rock, coming up, Lord. Elijah Rock, shout, shout. Elijah Rock, coming up, Lord. Shout, shout. Elijah Rock, coming up, Lord. Elijah Rock, shout, shout. Elijah Rock, coming up, Lord.
Satan's a liar and a counter too.
If you don't mind out, he'll come to.
If I could, I surely would. Just stand on the rock where Moses stood. Rock of Elijah Rock. Shout, shout out. Elijah, Elijah, Elijah Rock.
We're gonna shout, shout out. Elijah Rock, coming up. Elijah Rock, coming up. Elijah Rock, coming up. Elijah Rock, shout, shout. Elijah Rock, coming up, Lord. Elijah Rock, shout, shout. Elijah Rock, coming up, Lord. Elijah Rock, shout, shout. Elijah Rock, coming up, Lord. Elijah Rock, shout, shout. Elijah Rock, coming up, Lord. Elijah Rock, shout, shout. Elijah Rock, coming up, Lord. Elijah Rock, shout, shout. Elijah Rock, coming up, Lord. Elijah Rock, shout, shout. Elijah Rock, coming up, Lord. Elijah Rock, shout, shout. Elijah Rock, coming up, Lord.
Most of us, I believe, buy the case for peace, for right relationship, for reconciliation. It is not, I do not think, courageous for me to stand up in the pulpit and come out in favor of peace, good relationships, mending harms, kindness to neighbor. This is pretty safe territory, especially come mid-January every year. Most of us even harbor, I believe, an earnest and deep yearning for more peace and more reconciliation in our lives. Many of us, and I'm projecting me as the preacher always does, feel stumped often about how to practically get to a place of more reconciliation. So today in our time together, I am interested in the practical how of peacemaking. I'm excited, honestly, I'm excited about the possibilities we have to overcome hurt, past rupture, and make a little more peace in our world. I believe, and in some ways I am echoing Dr. King, who said peace starts with the self, and in my book, peace then moves to the people immediately around us with whom we are in active relationship. If we can make peace with the people immediately around us, we might be able to do it with people more distant from us. And I see it as relatively impossible if we can't be in right relationship with the small circle. If there is discord in our primary relationships, if there's discord in our church house, how can we reach out to bring peace to a world that needs us, that needs our healing energy? We need not be perfect. We need not finish the work of becoming peace at home before we head out the door. That would be a hard standard. We need to have done our work that we may, in good conscience, widen the circle of our care. Now let me begin with a story. It is from the written reflection of a woman named Louise Williams. It was collected in a work by Howard Zare, who is something of the father of restorative justice work. She tells us about her son in this story, who worked as a cab driver after finishing college. And he was driving the cab to make a little money while he was figuring out what to do. And he was an artist, a visual artist, a painter. She tells us that one afternoon he stopped for two teenagers at the train station, who immediately told them it's a robbery. And when he tried to run away, they shot him in the back and killed him. That's a short story. Simple and brutal. Now, we don't need to investigate the details of that story. They aren't important for obvious reasons. But instead, I want to focus on the internal story of Louise, which took place afterwards. She said these things which speak to a more universal and what is sometimes so-called a victim experience and struggle. Things like, in the beginning, I didn't want to live. I don't know why this happened, but I've got to find somehow a way to live with it. I do have my other children, and I have to help them get through this. I feel more anger toward his mother than to him. And then later, she offered two prescriptions that I want to hold up here as we continue our conversation. If I wouldn't have been strong in my faith, I probably could have lost my mind. And I view life as taking a trip on a train. You have to get off sometimes and look around. Now, right now in our lives, particularly coming out of the seemingly endless pandemic, I feel like our common train broke down in a way. So whether we elected it or not, none of us elected it, whether we like it or not, we have a special chance at this time and in these past months, and as I think of this year together, I see it as this chance we had to get off the train. Since it's broken anyway, we might as well take a walk around. We might as well pause, not rush forward. We might as well say, wait a minute, we have some time here, let's make use of it and get our bearings in a way we don't usually get to do. And one of the things, as this train is broken down and I've tried to get out and walk around, for me this train broke down in a neighborhood I'm not so familiar with, so I've been here getting out and walking around, and the things I see so often are strained, fractured, fragmented, and severed relationships of all kinds. Strained, fractured, fragmented communities of all kinds. The space and trauma of our current collective situation, by which I mean we could do a 10-mile radius, we could do the American situation, we could do a lot of things. The space and trauma of our current situation lays bare the ruptures in the relationships that provide the superstructure of our existence. I mean this in primary partnership relationships, in families, on work teams, in our church, in our neighborhood, and across the lines in society. In some cases, being locked down in a house together provided a ground for embedded conflicts to rise up. In some ways, it provided time for us to faithfully work on our family relationships. How will we both work from home? How do we make additional rooms if we're going to be more separated now? How do we focus on connection now that we don't take it for granted in our lives as much as what we once did? We, I think, need faith, like Louise said to us, to go after these relationships, creating new ones. We talk about that a lot, but continuing to reinforce, renew, and feed the relationships we have, because they have more to offer us, I think, in many cases than we've ever imagined, or even that we've ever experienced. And I'm talking to many people in the pews who've been married for 30 years. What a radical thing to suggest that that relationship has yet to produce its sweetest fruit. I mean it across friendship groups. I mean it in our vocational places. They could look different. I mean it, we can transform our teams. We can transform our families. Thanksgiving dinner can be different. next year. Few of us would argue with the attractiveness of relationships lifted up to another level, deepened to another level. Right? Most of us struggle with how to get that done, especially in relationships once they have that easy 20-year character to them. Or if I'm going to go from that 20-year character where I'm talking about families to society and the kinds of relationship ruptures, rifts, and disconnections that are reflected in the civil rights movement that King was speaking to, we're talking about 400 years of rupture between communities. How would you fix that? It's been 400 years. I only plan to live 120. How am I going to? How am I going to make a difference in entrenched 400-year-old problems? Let's just give up. I will preach about something else in this latter half of the story. Let's begin with Louise's story, because her words to me feel familiar and powerful. They reflect that process, and I think a healthy process of coping with trauma and the movement, the absolutely necessary movement from not wanting to live to learning how to live, because practically you owe it to yourself. It is a debt to the self. It is a debt to the people you care about. Wrestling with the deeper dimensions of personal loss and understanding, and figuring out where to direct your anger, figuring out how to make sense of your pain and your loss, regardless of what kind it is. I think the way we respond to Louise has a lot to do with addressing our own conflict and hurt. So I ask each of us today to consider the places calling for a little healing and restoration in our lives. I pause because that wasn't rhetorical. I want you to think of a place that requires a little healing and restoration in your life. You can start in here, the Buddhist metta prayer, let us begin inside, let us move to someone outside, and then let's move more broadly. Today I was struck the number of times Norristown came up in this service. I'm very excited that we are a church of extraordinarily numbers of socks. You'll note socks, we produced hundreds and hundreds of socks very quickly. We're a church of the sock, right? In that prayer, I wanted to think of, honestly, if there are 300 people wearing our socks today, let's think about them. That is wonderful. That didn't solve the world. Is there a little reconciliation in some socks? Heck yeah. A little reconciliation, some warm soup, inviting people in, a little reconciliation in that. Norristown, today, we're talking about warm clothing. We're talking about housing, and we're talking about simple food being available. 3 whole different programs and activities that we're deeply vested in. And why do we do that? And can we, I should say, envision that as sort of some kind of project of community reconciliation, a remembering, and trying to figure out how to enact this connection we know we have. We have some kind of fundamental connection with the people of Norristown. It's a strange thing. Connection because we chose it. Connection because you, quite some time ago, looked around and the train stopped and said, we have neighbors. What's over on the other side of that mall? Am I getting my directions right? What is it over there? Who's over there? Drive through that neighborhood. We do that, and bit by bit, we figure out what it might be to offer people a place to stay. We got some apartments over there, and Family Promise. We're figuring out how to get some more. That's exciting. Figure out how people can get some food, figure out some education. The list goes on. It is the product, I want to suggest, of faith, of getting off the train to look around, of having the instinct to reconcile with those we do not even know. It is a template for how to be in the world. And yet, it is just a beginning. And it is a frustrated beginning, in a way, of truly coming together with those communities. So that's what I want to leave the assignment for this month, and I hope we have more conversation about it on each of these levels. I moved kind of quickly from the self to the self and the other to the self and a community we're not really deeply connected to, but we have that yearning and something of that instinct. So come back to the center. Think of that first example of ruptures in your own life, the places where you've been hurt in a relationship or are hurting in one now. What to do with that? I want to make that the example because I'm talking today about the practices of restoration. I already said you want good relationships. You want to love yourself. You want to love the people around you. You want to love this church. Things get in the way. Think about the conflict and the hurt, the harms that were done. What was the harm that was done, and how do you feel about it? These are some of the parts of, I want to suggest, a unilateral practice of restoration. It prepares you and strengthens you to connect with the world, right? Understanding your own experience, the hurts and the disconnections that have taken place, I should say, within it, and being in touch with what you need to move forward. My suggestion to you from today is that you identify that and make it a bit of a project to do some transformation work in one of those long-standing conflicts or ruptures in your life. Think about those. Have you attempted reconciliation? One ancient way of thinking about reconciliation was simply one of confession and restitution. Right? We go back to the Torah. It says when a person wrongs another, breaking the faith, that person incurs guilt. Your job is to go confess and make full restitution, plus add a fifth to it. Essentially, the law of our tradition said to us, tell the truth and work to make the one who suffered the harms whole again. Whole again. The evolution of the way of our traditional understanding changed something about that. I won't go into the details, but somewhere around the 11th century in the common law and the law, there was a transformation in which certain crimes, certain harms that were done, were deemed to be crimes against the king. If you murdered someone going from about the 11th century forward, it was a crime against King Henry and not a crime against the family. And so the king would come after you and punish you. And so we're challenged in our way of thinking about punishment and justice and harms that someone else is the stakeholder in the business of the harms being done. It moved the attention from a relational harm, is what I'm trying to say, between you and me, and we have had a rupture, to you've done something wrong to me, and now the government and you have a problem. How much we could apply that to the ideas of class harms, of socioeconomic harms. It's not between us and the people of Norristown. That seems odd to suggest that it is. And yet, oughtn't it be somehow? If our neighbor has less and we have more, is not that the relationship? Instead, we make it about the government. We have a relationship, the government has a relationship with them, and we argue. Part of restorative justice is the idea of taking back into our hands direct relationship, taking responsibility for the harms that are done to others by actual people. It's a stretch of the mind to understand that we are somehow connected to the harms of racism, that we are somehow connected to oppression and hurt that's occurring. It happens by virtue of people. And not the same as me driving over your ox on the way to church, and I pay for your ox plus 20%. And yet, if we take human-to-human connection out of reconciliation, we take away the possibility that we would actually reconcile. And so it's a bit of a paradox. Many of us bristle at the idea, I sure do, of being guilty somehow in relationships when I didn't do a darn thing 200 years ago, 400 years ago. My people were from New York. What are you talking about? I just came here from 10 years in the South. How am I accountable for American slavery? I surely can't be. not directly, and yet the more I say I am not a party to this conversation of the hurts and harms, the more I'm saying I have no faith in the possibility we will ever resolve it. And so we choose to take up our end of the relationship, and in it do somehow the work of reconciliation. I don't mean to collapse together today, and you have my apologies, if I muddle them together, that idea of reconciling with your brother who makes you so angry every Christmas, and reconciling with people you've never met in another state on account of something you had nothing to do with. They aren't exactly the same, but the ability of the religious imagination to see those both as kinds of relationships, and the faith to believe they can be transformed, and the employment of some of the same tools of naming truth, listening to hurts, identifying ways to make the other party whole, can be tools of transformation. And so today, I lift up in honor of Dr. King not only the beautiful words he said. He is one of my pastors. He died before, almost at the same time I was born. How strange it is I think of him as one of my pastors, one of my teachers. And I want to do honor to him today, not only by reading his glorious words, he was a poet and a prophet, but I want to do honor today by undertaking a project. And that might be, symbolically, there's a reason why we go out and paint a building or something on MLK Monday. But the projects are deeper than that and have to do with the spirit of reconciliation and restoration, which is grounded in truth-telling, empathy for the hurts and the harms, and the enthusiasm to make people we love whole, to nurture people we love and to make them strong again in the shadow of the hurts and harms that this rocky journey we're on deals to each of us. And so the more we can reconcile with others, the more we can show the path for others to reconcile with us. What goes around comes around. Geez, I believe it. I believe it to be the case. And so, my friends, I leave you with that charge. I leave you with the charge to have an expectation of ever more peace in your life, and to have that expectation founded both in a completely fantastic religious imagination of beloved community and the completely realistic commitment to the tools we have to mend relationships and to draw closer to one another. May we take up this work together and be blessed in our striving. Amen. If you would now rise in body or in spirit for hymn number 199, Precious Lord. As you go forward from this place, may you be led to the light. As you go forward from this place, may you continue practicing being the light for others. Bless you. Go in peace. Go hand in hand. Amen.